All right, today I have in a person I consider a good friend. Uh, had known long, but I feel like we're kindred spirits. Judge Calvin
Right.
Williams, Montgomery, Alabama native, still there in Montgomery, doing great things for the community as he's done all of his adult life. And I'm happy they took the time and opportunity to talk to me today and just to talk to him a little bit about his community service. I mean, he's been doing community service for decades, so I always like to try to talk to people who doing the work every day as he's doing. So we really appreciate you taking the time and just chatting it up a little bit. And it's good to see you again.
Good evening, Travis, Dr. Armstrong, my friend. I appreciate the invitation. It's good to see you. Always good to talk with you. Looking forward to the conversation this evening.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just to give the folks a little background, Judge Calvin Williams was elected circuit court judge in Montgomery County, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, the capital city of the state of Alabama, family court in 2011. Judge Williams served as Montgomery County Sheriff Deputy at one point, that's true. Worked in private law practice,
That's correct.
was poured in part-time as city prosecutor, deputy district attorney, and something that's close to and dear to my heart, he is a military retiree. Did almost 4 decades of service. So I certainly applaud you on that. That's a long time, that's longevity. I can only make it, you're welcome. I can only make it a little over 2 decades. So
Well, hey,
I'll see you.
appreciate your service.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. And as we'll talk about a little later, Judge Williams shook hands with history, as I would say, meeting one of our elders who's still alive today, Miss Claudette Colvin. Had a chance to do some extraordinary things for her. Again, as we'll talk about here shortly. And as I mentioned earlier, to make it clear, Judge Williams has been a very consistent and dedicated community champion well before he met Ms. Colvin. So I just want to make that particular point clear. And so we'll talk a little bit about his life and how he came to meet Ms. Colvin and what you do on a daily basis and what the future holds for you. As we talked about in one of our conversations earlier, we talked a little bit about politics.
Politics. Yeah.
Yes. And so I would like to get your pick your brain a little bit on that. But first of all, again, glad to see you. And we talked a little bit about your childhood growing up there in Montgomery. What was it like? How was your family? You know, your mom, your parents, your siblings, just your upbringing there in Montgomery.
Well, Travis, my upbringing in Montgomery was very humble upbringing. I mean, not anything extravagant. West Montgomery. What if you know anything about Montgomery? West Montgomery is somewhat of the impoverished part of Montgomery. It's where you have a lot of housing projects and lower income, lower economic status members of the community. And so that's where I was raised. I was raised in the housing projects of West Montgomery up until the age of 12. And after that, my mother was able to move into residential housing, but a great part of my childhood was in the housing projects of Montgomery. And that was with my mother, who raised me and my 7 siblings. So it was a single mother household. I lost my father when I was 6 years old. All of us lost our father when we were 6 years old. So he was the father of all 8 siblings, of all 8 of us. And, you know, my mother was a hardworking lady. She worked cleaning houses for other people, you know, and did the best she can to provide for her 8 children, 7 boys and 1 girls, and I happen to be the youngest one. So it was a humble upbringing, and you know, just an upbringing where I got to appreciate hard work and what it takes to work hard and and get ahead in life, because that's all I saw my mother try to do. And so she was a great example of how you should try to work hard, to get to where you need to be and where God wants you to be in life. And that has been a great and perfect example for me even to this day. So very humble upbringing, with a great, strong example in a single mother.
Well, there's something a little bit about my life as well. But as you talk about, your mother, every time you talk about her, we've talked about this on a couple of occasions, your face lights up when you talk about her. And setting that, having that great example of work ethic, that's something that she instilled in all of you all. And you being the youngest, did you get more of the attention from her or your older siblings? And how did that affect you all's relationships with your siblings?
Well, she considered me her baby, and so quite, frankly, I did get a lot more attention because I was the last and the youngest, and I was considered the baby of the family. So I got, I would say, a lot more attention from her because I was the youngest and the last one, and she. I don't know that she poured more into me than she did to others, but certainly she wanted to make sure I stayed on the right track, and she tried to raise me in the right way. That maybe some things she may have thought that she didn't, get right with the others, or she didn't do with the others. She tried to make sure that I picked up on those things, and so she did spend a lot of time with me. I spent a lot of time with her because what else you gonna do with your baby other than have
Yeah,
him with you, right? And so I did spend a lot of time with her, and that yeah, I got a little tease from my brothers that, yeah, you the baby and you a little spoiled and this and that, and they thought that she kind of gave a little bit more to me than she did to them. But at the end of the day, we love each other, and they understand that I'm their baby brother as well. So
absolutely.
they wanted me to do well in some regards too,
Right,
just like she did.
right, absolutely.
So it was a healthy, rivalry between the siblings, if you
Yeah,
will.
that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now going through school, what were your aspirations? I think I read a little bit somewhere where as you progress through uh, school, compulsory education, grades 1 through 12, that you, I don't know if you really wanted to join the military or that you wanted to, at least have an opportunity to go to college. And military was one of those avenues that particularly, and I can speak from that framework as well. Growing up in rural Mississippi, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. And Montgomery will make the town that I grew up in look like, Atlanta, you know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
not having a lot of opportunities, the military was one of those ways to better yourself. So what were your aspirations in regard? Did you always want to join the military, or was it something that you saw as an opportunity to uh, go to college and to uh, pretty much end up where you are today?
Well, honestly, Travis, it was kind of part of a roadmap that I had mapped out for myself. Early on, I had uh, decided that I would one day be a lawyer,
Mhm.
and I knew that I needed to do certain things in order to become a lawyer. My mother and other family members um, thought that one day I could become a lawyer. They kind of spoke that uh, into me, and I believed it, and so I began to put forth a plan to get to that point. And part of it was, getting through high school. First of all,
Mhm.
I tell a lot of folks in different speeches that I give that I'm the youngest sibling in my family of eight siblings, but I'm the only one to graduate high school. And so I knew that was the first cycle, so to speak, to break, was the high school dropout and to become a high school graduate. And so once I did that, or accomplished that goal, then the next thing would be, well, to go to college. But the question was, how are you going to pay for college? My oldest brother had been in the military, and so I knew about the military, and I knew about his experience in the military. My father had been in the military, I'd been told at least. And so that was some history in the family of the military. I had I had a cousin who was an ROTC instructor. In fact, he was my ROTC instructor in high school. So he was military. And so we had somewhat of a military heritage in the family. And so it was a no-brainer to me, if you will, to go ahead and join the military for the GI Bill, to get some college money and get out in my initial enlistment on active duty and enroll in college, and then hopefully go on to law school after my undergraduate. So the plan was go into the military, do my 3.5 years, get the GI Bill money, enroll in college, finish my college, and go on to law school. And that's exactly how the plan ended up working, by the way. So I stuck to the plan, even though some was trying to persuade me to stay in the military, stay on active duty, because there's nothing out here that you can do. But God steered me in the right direction, or in the different direction, to go ahead and stick with what He wanted me to do, which was get your money out of the military for the college, the GI Bill, and go on into college like I had planned. And that's exactly what I did, and it's made a great difference.
Absolutely. You had a vision and you worked the plan for the vision.
But the thing was, I loved it enough, Travis, as you know, that I stayed in. I stayed in the reserves after active duty, and I stayed in, for 38 years total military service. So I had the best of both worlds.
You did. So did you see any lawyers when you were growing up? Because a lot of times, things we don't see, we don't think we can be. And the saying, if you see it, you can be it. Did you see any particularly Black lawyers when you were growing up, or did you have any in your family, that you met in church, or whatever the case may be, or just something that you always knew that you wanted to do?
It was just something, as I stated, that was spoken into me, that was manifested, if you will, into me, and I believed it, strongly enough that it's something that I wanted to pursue, and it's something that was in my spirit, I think, to do. I knew of no lawyers personally. Only lawyer I knew was Perry Mason on television. So there's no lawyers. Were no lawyers in my family. Really, no professionals really in my family. So this was another cycle to break, another another tradition, if you will, to implement or start in my family. High school graduation, college graduation, entering into professional careers. So for me, this was a first, in my family, and you know, it was something I just thought I could do, and eventually that's what I did, because I believed enough in myself that I could do it.
Right. And so on that path to becoming a lawyer, you worked in law enforcement, as I mentioned in the beginning. Um, I assume that was an important uh, segue into becoming a lawyer. How did that play a part into you being where you are today, and your roadmap to that?
Yeah. So that was something that came along the way in my roadmap, if you will. Um, I had, ironically, after I got off active duty, my initial enlistment into the military, and got off active duty to start my college career and utilization of my GI Bill, I had immediately enlisted into the Army National Guard, Alabama Army National Guard. and that was in 1989. And so several months later, not several months, just a few months later, my particular unit was mobilized for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So I had started college just like I planned to, but that had to be put on hold in my first semester as a freshman, or first year as a freshman, and I had to deploy overseas in support of Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm with the National Guard. And once I finished that deployment after a long 9 months in the desert, I came back and restarted my undergraduate career at college, and but I felt like I needed, to get income and to have some money, because I was in a relationship, I was dating, and I was looking towards, marriage. And so I applied with the sheriff department. I was already studying criminal justice in college. That was my major in college, and I decided to go ahead and apply with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and lo and behold, they hired me, and that was a great help. Quite frankly, I worked for the sheriff department for 7 years, and all of that time that I worked for the sheriff department, I did most of it while I was in college, and I did all of it while I was in law school, the 7 years, part of the 7 years. So it helped me to matriculate through not just law school, but through my undergraduate studies as well, because that was part of my undergraduate studies, was public safety, what some would consider criminal justice. So it helped out tremendously, being in law enforcement, making that decision, and it just happened. It was not something that was planned.
In prior discussions that we've had, you mentioned the tragic loss of your sister to domestic violence, and I assume that played a role in also your pursuit of criminal justice in both arenas, whether it's law enforcement or through becoming a lawyer. So how did that play a part in your roadmap? Obviously, tragically, you didn't see that as part of your roadmap, but unfortunately, it came about. So how did that play a part?
Well,
in
that I think that played a very important role. I think it more or less, Travis, solidified my determination, my resolve to become a lawyer. That happened in 1996, and by that time I was in my second year, if not finishing my first year of law school, and so that propelled me really to go forward on that road towards becoming a lawyer, because things kind of clarified in my mind of what I needed to do going forward in the legal profession. So it was motivation, and and something that really propelled me forward in my law school career, to make it through, to make sure that I finish it and go into the practice of law to deal with those kinds of issues.
Right. And you certainly have championed the cause of domestic violence, or just any violence that's perpetrated within our community. And I'm quite sure, with you being on the inside, I believe you said you started working as an assistant DA within the city, if I have that correct.
Yeah. Well, city prosecutor.
City prosecutor. And then you went on to private practice, or was it vice versa?
Well, so here's the story on that. So how everything is kind of intertwined with the death of my sister. So one thing that that was greatly disturbing to me was that, my sister, she had gotten out of an abusive marriage. She had divorced her husband. And, that's one of the most dangerous times in a domestic violence relationship is a divorce, leaving that control, because that's when the batterer, he really tries to regain that control. And that's exactly what happened in her case, is that when she divorced him and left him, that's when he really ratcheted up his control. He began to, execute on his threats that, if he can't have her, nobody else will. And he stalked her and harassed her and threatened her. And she would go to the police and make reports and file charges of, harassment and threats, and abuse. And she would go to court and try to, get some assistance from law enforcement and from the court system to deal with this abuse that she was facing or dealing with from her ex-husband. And she even got a protection order, but it turns out that was just a piece of paper, because there was no enforcement behind it. There was no enforcement behind the protection order. There was no enforcement behind the charges that she had filed against him for stalking her and threatening her and harassing her and beating her. There was nothing. And I mean, he spent maybe a day or two in jail and would get out, and he would continue the stalking. And so, one day he stalked her down, and as she was leaving the parking lot or the drive-through of a local drive-through restaurant, he runs up to the car with her and her companion. She was on the passenger side, and he shot her and killed her right there in the car, and carried out the threat that he promised her that he would do. And so my point in telling that is that, I thought she had done everything. I knew she had done everything that she was supposed to do to get the protection that she needed from that, but it didn't work. And so I, on her behalf of her estate, filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Montgomery for failing to protect her, uh, violating her federal rights to protection. And it was a federal lawsuit. And it turns out that I formed a good friendship with the attorney that pursued that case on behalf of my sister. And we became good friends. And he was a partner at a local law firm. And this was, again, during my time in law school, shortly after my sister's death. And our relationship was close enough that he saw something in me to say, well, when you finish law school and pass the bar, we want to hire you as an associate in our law firm. And that's exactly what happened, is that, once I finished law school and passed the bar, they brought me on as an associate attorney at the law firm that was pursuing the case against the city of Montgomery on behalf of my sister. And the other side of that is that the other person that was going to hire me as an associate was running for mayor of Montgomery, and he happened to win, and hired me as a part-time city prosecutor while I was working as an associate attorney for that firm.
Wow. So they hired you from under them.
Well, I was still working there as an associate, but it was on I was kind of a contract attorney with the city of Montgomery as a prosecutor, part-time city prosecutor. So it was kind of a contract with the city of Montgomery while I still worked as an associate attorney for that firm. Yeah.
It was a very interesting time then in your life there. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Absolutely. Wow. That was a lot going on, but that was a blessing.
Yeah.
That's how it worked out for me.
Yeah.
Some folks saw some things in me again that, that I didn't see in myself. Two interested firms at the time I was in law school. One, again, was running for mayor, and he won, and he didn't bring me on, but he was nice enough, after I was hired with the other firm, to offer me a part-time position with the city of Montgomery as a contract city prosecutor on behalf of the city.
Wow.
So that's how I began my career as a prosecutor. I was hired part-time as city prosecutor while I worked full-time as an associate attorney
Okay.
with that local firm.
Well, a lot of times it works out that way, and I could say this about you, knowing you for the time that I have. You're much too modest to say, you know, uh, the things that the other people would have said about you. And that's why both those entities saw something in you. Yeah, this guy can make it. So uh, good on them. So
Yeah.
and it gets to uh, provide insight into you from all of us, and so we appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And so you go from being an associate, working then into the city. How did the judgeship come along?
Well, so the rest of the story is that eventually me and that same attorney that was pursuing the case on behalf of my sister, we eventually left that firm and we started our own firm. Uh, and we were partners in that firm, but I'm also still serving in the military at this time. But by this time, I've transitioned over to the Army Reserves from the National Guard, and so during the Iraqi Freedom War, I was mobilized yet again. And so I did 1 year mobilization. So I had to leave him on his own to manage the firm. And I did that for a year. So upon returning from mobilization of 1 year, I decided to go on and work full time with the city. And so they hired me rather than as a part-time prosecutor. I became the first full-time city prosecutor for the city of Montgomery, and I did that for 1 year, and then I was hired away from that by the district attorney for Montgomery County, and I was hired as a deputy district attorney, and I worked as a deputy district attorney for 6 years, prosecuting some of the most serious felony cases, including capital murders and drug trafficking and all kinds of felony offenses. Um, And so after doing that for 6 years, I was approached. Here I am being approached again and asked to do something to run for a seat on the circuit court. And that seat happened to be in the family court division, but it's a circuit court, a circuit judge position. And I was asked to throw my hat in the ring for that position, and I agreed to do that after some prayer, and some good folks decided to come out and help me with the campaign, and you know, uh, thanks to God, I was elected in 2011 by the great citizens of Montgomery County to be their first African American circuit judge in the family court division of Montgomery.
Wow, you think about that, and that was 2011, and you were the first African American judge in family court, Montgomery County. What was that like? You really sit and think about it. Think about the state of Alabama, where it is, the history of it. Um, well, we know why it took so long, but what was it like being the first? Did you think
Well,
about it in the context of being the first?
I guess I do in some regards, and I'm still the first. I mean, I'm the only. So we have divisions. The family court divisions deals with everything really that has to do with families and kids, from your divorces to your child support to your child custody, and to our juvenile cases involving kids that are in trouble with the law, juvenile delinquents. And so it really is a special position, and I consider it a calling, because you're really trying to to build broken families, right? And to rehabilitate um, young kids, young children who have made some bad decisions and put them on the right track so that they won't end up in the adult system. And so I stand as an example, really, at least in that capacity, of kids that are facing, problems with the law, that have violated the law and now need some rehabilitation. I stand as an example of what they can become, especially our young Black males.
Well, how do they respond to you? Particularly our young Black males, how do they respond to you in that regard?
I think the response is good. It's not something prior to me taking the bench that they had seen before.
Mhm.
So I think the response is good. I take a different approach because I have been, to where they've been.
Right.
I know where they have come from, and I know some of the struggles that they are dealing with. I won't say that I know exactly everything that they're dealing
Yeah.
with, but I can relate. And so I just, relate to them in that regard, that, I know what you're dealing with. And, sometimes it requires a little tough love, but
Right.
sometimes it just requires a little understanding of the challenges that they're dealing with and putting in the services and the programs that they need to get over those challenges.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of people, as you mentioned, of course, I'm not in that arena, but people just need a chance and need to be understood for the most part. And tough love is always needed, but uh, like you said, a little understanding goes a long way. So,
Absolutely.
um, what's the recidivism rate like? Is it uh, a lot of services for the youth there in Montgomery that you guys are a part of?
So one of the things I've been blessed with, Travis, is I'm the presiding judge over family court. And so that gives me the opportunity in an administrative capacity or ministerial capacity to bring in programs and services, to bring in community partners, to collaborate with different agencies and resources in the community, and really implement services and programs that are going to affect change in the lives of our juveniles, in the lives of our families. And so, I've brought in best practices from a national perspective into the court. I've brought in mentoring programs, partnerships with mentoring programs. I've brought in some community-based things that would help our juveniles in the community rather than locking them up, because we know that uh, at least studies and statistics tells us that children do well, or they do better within the community rather than being locked up in a institution and learning how to be a better delinquent. And so we want to leverage the community corrections or the community-based rehabilitation programs. And so we've implemented a lot of those type things to help our juveniles. We've implemented services to get them their education, services that may deal with if they're having drug issues, drug rehabilitation, drug treatment. If they're having mental health issues, services to deal with their mental health challenges and issues. So just a host of wraparound services to help them truly rehabilitate. And then we try to bring in some holistic approaches to help the whole family, because sometimes we have to address the issues in the home, which includes mom and daddy, often just mama, because we deal with a lot of single parent households.
Well, I commend you for that because a lot of times, people are the first, or they may be the only representations that we see, and sometimes it don't quite work out, and we want them to go farther uh, than what has been done in the past because we need it. We have a special situation here in this country, and we need different types of. Our environment is different, So we need different approaches to those to help with those issues. So I certainly
Well,
commend you.
the whole goal of, and of course, as I stated, the juvenile court is just one part of the entire family court division, but it is a very important division. It is really my biggest division. I mean, I have a whole staff of probation officers, about 20 or 21 probation officers that assist with these juveniles and, getting them the right services and treatments that they need. But the goal of the juvenile court as it relates to delinquency is rehabilitation, is to rehabilitate our kids that are involved with the justice system so that they won't go into the adult criminal justice system, and to rehabilitate and reform their behaviors so that they will become effective adults, contributing members of the community on the adult side, so that they will go on and complete their high school education and move on to college or a vocational trade or whatever the case may be, but that they would stay out of the adult criminal justice system. And that's the goal.
That's the goal. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now in 20, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe, you had the opportunity to, I say, make history in dealing with one of our special people that we have still, one of our elders, Miss Claudette Colvin. And I think I first saw you, me and my wife saw you on the CBS Morning Story. And like, man, that is a great story. A lot of people don't know Miss Colvin's name. They know Rosa Parks, but they don't know Claudette Colvin. And we knew her name, we knew the story, but seeing that story and you all's connection to it, it was heartwarming. And then come to find out you're going to be here speaking as a keynote speaker. We said, oh, we got to go meet this fellow. And so we got an opportunity to meet. Great keynote speech for one of the MLK events here in San Antonio, and just been enamored with the story. And so how did that come about? You eventually expunged Ms. Colvin's criminal record from 67, 68 years ago, 1955, I believe it was. So how did that come about, land in your world?
So Travis, it was another one of these things that just kind of happened along the path of Calvin Williams in his life's journey, if you will, just like a lot of other things. As I stated, I'm the presiding judge, and something like that would typically be assigned to the presiding judge, and in my case, it was assigned to me. So Ms. Colvin, with the assistance of an attorney, local attorney here in Montgomery, files this request to have her record expunged from the arrest that that was made of her when she was a young child, 15 years old, and where she decided that she would not give up her seat on a Montgomery city bus. And this was in 1955, March of 1955, I believe. And so this was before Rosa Parks. And as a result of her refusal to give up her seat to a Caucasian woman, she was approached by the police after the bus driver called the police on her, as they often did during those times. And she was forcefully removed from the seat. And in the course of that removal, a struggle ensued, and she was charged with, assaulting and harassing a police officer. One or two of those charges ended up sticking. She had gone down to juvenile court, which is, of course, the court I preside over, and she ended up being convicted on that charge as a 15-year-old child at that time. And that had remained on her record. She was given probation. She eventually left Montgomery some years later, but that issue was never resolved. And in her mind, she was thinking, "Well, I'm leaving the city, but I'm still on probation for
Right.
this conviction." And so it was always a shadow over her head. Though technically, she may not have been on probation, but it was an unresolved issue in her mind, and it was kind of a dark cloud over her head, and she wanted it dealt with. And she, years later, however many years later, came back to ask that that matter be expunged, and filed the appropriate request to the court. I received it, and I uh, I acted on it because, as I stated in the order, uh, it was a matter of right that it be expunged, not just a legal right, because we do allow juvenile records to be expunged and destroyed after a certain period of time, but really as a right, just a moral right. It
Yes.
was a wrong that had been perpetrated on her as a 15-year-old child that was standing up for her rights when nobody else really was. And so it was the right thing to do, and it was a thing that needed to be corrected. And I was happy and honored, really, to have the opportunity to be the judge to make that decision to right that wrong that was perpetrated against her so many years ago, and that she would be able to live and see it
Yeah.
corrected, was the honor of a lifetime.
Yes. And I can remember during that interview with David Becknell, CBS, she was so excited to meet you. And she said, "Oh, it's a black man." That was
She did.
that we rolled on the floor about that.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, we rolled on the floor about that because, of course, her age and growing up how she did, that was unheard of. And
Mhm.
so, having that opportunity to have a request granted by somebody that looks like her, who's from Montgomery, I know that was overwhelming.
Yeah, and the thing that, in talking with her when we did that surprise trip to Corpus Christi, Texas, to meet her and have it on CBS Morning, was, in our discussions about it when we talked, she was still, trying to stand up for right even
Mhm.
then,
Right.
and it wasn't so much for her, it was for her grandchildren, for
Yes.
them to see that she was still fighting for
Right.
right by expunging this wrongful, what she considered and what really was a wrongful conviction. And she
Right.
wanted them to know that, you can still fight and fight for your rights. And she
Right.
wanted them to know that she was fighting to have this wrongful conviction removed off of her record, so it
Right.
won't continue to be a dark cloud over her, and they will know about the hero that she was and
Yeah,
that she
she
is
was.
today.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking. She still got breath in her, so she's still fighting, and
still
that's
fighting.
a great example for all of us, but particularly uh, the young people in her family who see, yeah,
Absolutely.
fought to the end, still fighting,
Absolutely.
still
That's
fighting.
right.
Mhm. So how did that affect you, uh, personally? Because it had to be uh, something that probably played in your head after you did it. Particularly you still living in the same community that you grew up in. Everybody probably knows the story there in Montgomery. So how did that have an effect on you um, going forward?
Well, it 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 affected me personally as far as my involvement in it, as far as my opportunity to meet this unsung hero, you know, to know her story. Not only did she refused to give up her seat on that particular day that resulted in this arrest. But Ms. Colvin was one of 3 or 4 named plaintiffs in a federal lawsuit against the city of Montgomery. Galvin versus Browder. Browder was the mayor of the city of Montgomery at the time. And that decision, that federal court case, resulted in a landmark decision, U.S. Supreme Court decision. They denied the cert and upheld the ruling of the Middle District Federal Court here in Montgomery that says it is unconstitutional. It's against the 14th Amendment to segregate city buses. And that resulted in a landmark nationwide desegregation of city bus decisions across the country, not just Montgomery. And it effectively ended the city boycott. So she was part of that landmark decision as well. And so it was a great opportunity for me to be able to meet and correct an injustice against, this legend, really, this hero, this civil rights icon. That's what it meant to me. Now, as far as any impact beyond me and within the community, I've had a lot of, calls and opportunities to do other interviews and all of that. But it's just been something that has been, for me, just a remarkable opportunity in my life, something that I will always cherish. Yes. And that I will never forget. That is the effect that it's had for me. I've not gotten any, awards or anything like that for it, because, as I stated, it was the right thing to do. The person that deserves the recognition, of course, and that has gotten the recognition and continues to get it, right, is Miss Claudette Colvin. She deserves the recognition because, she had been an unsung hero, but now we're singing her praises, and she deserves all the praise in the world for what she did and what she stood for, and the precursor that she was to who would become Rosa Parks and what she did.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great educational opportunity as well for people to learn about that. Again, big ups to you. It was just very heartwarming story, and I'm glad we were able to see it, first of all, and to know you and the great work that you've done and you continue to do. So today, moving forward, what's your roadmap looking like? What's your your professional roadmap looking like?
Well, Travis, God only knows that. God only knows that. It's just it's up to me to figure out what his plans are. And once that's revealed to me, then I'll just, as I pursue becoming a lawyer, I'll pursue that plan. But he has definitely put me in the place that I am now and the position that I am now to make a difference. And I believe that difference is being made. I believe it's being felt, not just in the case of Miss Colvin, but in the lives of so many other folks that come into my court that have cases before me, whether they're on the juvenile side, dealing with a juvenile in trouble with the law, or on the dependency side, where we're dealing with a child abuse or neglect situation, or even on the divorce side, where we're having to deal with people that don't love each other anymore and want a divorce. Right. So God has, I think, placed me in this position to affect the right decisions and rebuild or try to heal what's broken in the lives of these families to the best of my ability, And so, if this is my third term, I call it the retirement term. After three terms as a judge in Alabama, you can look towards retirement. You have your time vested, and you can move on to something else. But I don't know. I won't have to make that decision until 2027.
Okay, you got a little time. You got a little time.
Yeah, so we'll see.
well, I won't ask you the question on camera. We'll talk about that later. But, well, if it's anything like the past, then you're going to be in the right place at the right time, and you'll know what it is. So
Always.
it'll be something that's life changing, not only for you but for the people that you're in service to. So
Absolutely.
and again, I want to commend you on your retirement, 38 years of service to our nation. Appreciate you and the family, because I know that affects the family more than the military member itself. You know, absentee, missing birthdays and holidays. So, so congratulations to you and your wife and your children and your grandchildren. So appreciate that. And this has been very enlightening. Again, we've talked earlier, but I always like talking to you because, again, you even keel, you're matter of fact, and I love that. I love that, and your great service to the city of Montgomery is, I can say, it's appreciated. So appreciate you taking the time to talk to me again, and we'll definitely be in touch. And like I said, we'll discuss more on what this chat. I won't say interview, but chat. We'll do it later. So appreciate your time.
It's been a great honor. I appreciate it. I was thinking on the military thing. This is my first summer that I won't be in the military, so I need to take advantage of this first summer after 38 years of being in the military. You know, not having to worry about summer camp or 2 weeks training or going here and there, but just spending my whole summer at home after 38 years, you know, having time with the grandson. But,
you got to load up the camper.
I got to buy one first. I got to buy one first.
Hit the road, go out west, the East Coast. You know, I'm telling you, your freedom, free time. After all of that, I'm telling you, it takes some adjustment. But once you get past the adjustment phase, you're like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
You know, it's behind
you. I'm still trying to figure it out, Travis. So I need your notes. I need you to give me some. I know you've been suggesting some adventurous trips.
Oh yeah.
But, I'm still trying to figure it out. Right now, I'm really loving the weekends.
Oh yes. Oh
really
yes.
loving the weekends.
Oh yes. I hear that. I hear that.
Yes.
I hear that. Yeah. But Judge Calvin Williams, thank you, sir. Appreciate you for your time. You know, time is everything. So thank you for your time and your wisdom and that you impart, and I appreciate it. And like I said, we'll talk soon and chop it up a little bit. And again, appreciate your time. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. I've enjoyed it, and it's been my pleasure to have this conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
Have a good one.
You too.